Just last week, I did a review on the Chery Tiggo 7 Pro. And I've been on a roll with these Chinese cars lately, but for a good reason, because they're actually really good. And what we have here today is another Pro unit. Here we have the Maxus D60 Pro. This is the mid-range trim. Today I'm going to show you around this car, and I'm also going to give it a test drive, so stay tuned. At the front of the Maxus D60 Pro, they have what they call a black with chrome grille, which is quite odd because I was looking at the spec sheet earlier and the higher end elite trim has what they call a cobweb design. But don't you already agree that this one already looks like a cobweb design as it is? And it looks really good as well. You get this Maxus badge on it as well. This entire front fascia reminds me of like the Hyundai Kona, but just way chunkier. Now what I really love about this front look are these lights. Now in most cars your lights are up above, then you get a bunch of fog lights down here, but for this car, aside from your fog lamps, you actually get your headlights over here. Now this Pro model only gets halogens versus the Elite with LEDs. However, despite that, you still get these really nice LED looking DRLs. Not quite sure if they are LEDs, but they do look like it, and it looks really good. Now as you move on over to the side of the car, you get less of that Hyundai Kona look and you get a much more premium looking car. Sure, there's not that much design cues on it, but just the general shape of the car reminds me of the BMW X5, the newest model. Now for your tires, you get a bunch of hand-cooked tires, which is really a pleasant surprise because I was expecting they go for some cheaper brands, but this hand-cooked Dynapro HP2 tires in 215/65/17s are really perfect for a car like this. I really love the look of this Maxus badge right here, plus this entire light bar. In the Chery Tiggo 7 Pro, it was split into 3 pieces, but for this one, it's really one solid piece right here. Now a couple of interesting things to note about this car is that in most cars, you're gonna have like these fake exhaust vents over here, but they weren't pushing it with this car, so really they made sure to cover it up so you don't mistake it as a fake exhaust pipe. However, what just boggles my mind is that despite them having these like covered up what do you call these holes, they ended up still giving you 2 legitimate exhaust pipes down there, so you actually get dual exhaust pipes under this car. However, it is hidden by this huge bumper. Now as you go up here, you're gonna ask me, how the hell do you open this tailgate? You press the middle of the U logo or the A logo, or maybe just like some Mazdas, is it somewhere in the D or the 0? Nope, it's right here just below the wipers. You just press that one up and you pull from here. And as you open this up, you reveal a rather large place to put your items, but this is the Pro model, so you only get 5 seats in this car. Upgrade to the Elite and you get a 7-seater. Now as you lift this one up, you get a place to put more stuff, and if you lift this one up, which is a little bit hard to do, you're gonna reveal a full-size spare tire, which is actually quite rare for cars nowadays. Now to close this one back up, you just put everything back, and then it doesn't have a power tailgate, so you just pretty much just slam it down like that. Now under the hood of the D60 Pro, you have this 1.5 liter turbocharged inline 4 engine, which produces 169 horsepower and 250 newton meters of torque. Now this engine right here is mated to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. It is a dry clutch, so it can get a little bit jerky in town, but I'll talk more about that later in the drive. Here inside the D60, first let's check the third of the door. And it sounds somewhere in between a Japanese and European car. Start the car up. For this Pro trim, you only get your flip key, upgrade to the Elite model, and you get push button start. Fires right up like that. Alright, so in the interior, they did cut costs where they could, but in the places that they had to make it a little bit more premium, they really did do that. So for example, your dashboard, it is soft touch. Here on the side, it is soft touch, and there's some places which you don't expect them to be soft touch, especially at this price point. However, thankfully they are. So for example, this part down here, that's soft touch, and where your knees would hit the center console over here, that's also strangely soft touch, which is really, really good. Now for your steering wheel, it is leather wrapped. However, it's leaning a bit towards the slightly leather wrapped part, so the leather is very thin. It feels still kind of plasticky, but it's fine overall. What I don't like about it though is that it's only tilt adjustable. You can't telescope it, so if you're a bit on the shorter side, you might find that this one is a bit hard to reach. Yeah. Now you get your cruise control settings to the left and your multimedia controls on the right. Then your instrument cluster, it's very bare bones. You don't have like a huge digital instrument cluster. So you get your speedometer, your tachometer as usual, but to the middle of that, you get a nice digital screen, which is also your trip computer. Now to the middle of everything, you have this center console right here. Now, it looks really good. It reminds me of like a smaller Tesla screen. However, what I don't like about it is that they only took up half the real estate of this thing for the actual screen, which by the way is an Android unit. So if you're an Android tablet user, you'll feel very at home using this one. But then below that, you get this thing, right? So you think that it is a screen, but it's not. It's just some diagram of your AC and how it's blowing. So you have your fan speed. You can also control the temperature. But the buttons are a hit or miss. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. So now I can't seem to like lower it again. And same thing with the AC fan up and down. It works, I don't know, 30% of the time. There you go. I can't even turn up the fan speed now. But at least they are physical buttons rather than some of those. You have to go into like some complicated AC settings in the infotainment just to change your AC settings. For your shifter, a good thing, it's not any hard to use shifter as well. It's not digital, so you have your conventional shifter. It looks very similar to the Montero actually. You also get the sport mode, which you can manually shift all 7 dual clutch gears. Now below that, you get electronic parking brake and auto hold. Now we go to the seats of this car. The seats of this car, they're very comfortable. One of the most comfortable seats I've sat on. Unfortunately, they are not power adjustable, but I love the material on it. The cloth, the fabric on it is really not bad overall. The bolsters on either side are very comfortable as well. They're just adequate. They're not uncomfortable even if you're a larger person. These headrests too, I love how they protrude a little bit forward. That way you don't feel like your neck is dangling towards the back. Here at the back, let's check the thud of the door. Sounds just a little bit better than the front. All right, so back here, the space is just crazy. I own a Mercedes-Benz S-Class W140 in long wheelbase form. And I dare say when it comes to legroom, this car can almost compete with that. I mean, I'm seated down in my driving position. I'm only 5'6" though, but just look at the space back here. I can like swim here on the floor. I can literally lie down on the floor back here. And it's not just legroom. There's also great amount of headroom. Plus the car is rather wide and you get a fully flat floor. I'm talking about like 100% flat floor. So even if you like sit 3 people back here, it's gonna be so easy and it's gonna be so comfortable for everyone. Now for your toys, you get a bunch of cool toys back here. So usually you get like a map pocket in most cars, right? But for this one, you get one big map pocket and 2 smaller pockets probably for your phone or your wallet or your keys probably. You get your own armrest back here with 2 cup holders, which are rather large actually. Then you get your own air vents, you get a 5-volt USB charger and a 12-volt outlet. So driving the 2021 Maxus D60 Pro. So as you get into this car, the first thing you'll know is just how much of a comfort-oriented cruiser it is. As you turn the wheel, as you drive along, you just know that this car is not really made for spirited driving, because first thing is the steering feel. It is incredibly light, but that's not a bad thing because since this car was really made for the city, you want the steering to be as light as it can be, especially for Manila roads. And that also translates to a very easy time of parking this car, coupled with your rather clear but a little bit dark. I wish I could increase the brightness in your reverse camera. Now, second thing is that the handling itself, aside from the steering precision, it's just, yeah, there's a lot of body roll. It is a rather tall car after all, and that is to be expected at this segment, so we can't really fault it for that. Then you move on over to its engine. Now the engine, there's 169 horsepower, which is not bad for a car this size. However, the problem there now lies with the dual clutch transmission. So first, in case you don't know, a dual clutch transmission is basically like an automatic transmission, but it's more of like an automated manual in the sense that there are still real clutches in there instead of a torque converter pushing constant power to your wheels or to your transmission. And the problem with dual clutches is that they tend to get a little bit jerky, because how they work is that there's an actual clutch engaging and disengaging, but at least in the sense of dual clutch, there's 2 doing it. So you get one set for your odd gears and another set for your even gears. And it shouldn't take a lot of time. In fact, it should take very little time, even faster than a human hand to shift, because there's that second clutch waiting as you go on away from your first or, well, your second gear onto your next gear. But in most cars, in like Audis and Porsches, they're really fast. However, they're still jerky. And in this car, it's still jerky, but a little bit more jerky, but it's not horrible. So over like bad roads, which we have a lot of in Manila, it's really comfortable. Sure, there's a little bit more jarring that you'll feel compared to, let's say, some sedans, but really it's not bad, because the trade-off for that is that you get a rather high car which can go through our often flooded roads of Manila, and also you can easily like go over some what do you call the banqueta, the curb. You can easily go over them. You won't really curb your wheels. Plus the fact that you get 17-inch rims on this one versus the 18-inch rims which you get on the higher trim means that you can drive this a little bit more carelessly, and you don't have to really worry about damaging your extremely huge rims. Now here, from a get-go, like from a standstill, there is a little bit of delay, so you really have to like power. I mean, you have to hit the accelerator pedal a little bit more. So think about it as if you're driving like a manual transmission, but you don't really ride the clutch. Instead, you kind of ride the gas pedal with this one as you come off from a standstill. But again, we go back, it's not a bad system. When it comes to the visibility of this car, it's actually not bad overall compared to some of its competitors whose windows and windshield have gotten smaller and smaller, raked and more raked lately. This car is actually a more traditional windshield type, so it's not that raked. Overall, around you, it's pretty good. Even your wing mirrors, although they're big, they're positioned in such a way where you can really see a lot outside. The back too, it's very clear, plus you get your reverse camera, so it's just a really easy car to maneuver around in the city. And speaking of maneuvering it, the light steering wheel coupled with the fact that the car, although it is chunky and big looking, it's not that long, means that you can really easily maneuver this even in really tight spaces, even in what we call our esquinitas. Fuel economy in the city currently with an averaging 13 kilometers per hour, which for our non-Philippine viewers may sound absurd, but trust me, that happens so much in Manila. And mind you, this is a weekend, so 13 kilometers per hour average speed is totally not bad at all. Now, despite this horrible 13 kilometer per hour average speed, I'm still averaging around 11.7 liters per 100 kilometers, which translates to around 9 kilometers per liter. It's rather close to even its diesel car counterparts. The Fortuner I'm driving, although it is a bigger car, it is a diesel, but that one is only returning me like 7.6 kilometers per liter. So this one is not bad. Let's test out the acceleration of this car. So I put it into S mode, and I'm pretty much just gonna floor it just like that. There's a little bit of hesitation, and we're at 40, we're at 60, we're at 80, and that's almost 100 right there. Well, not quite 100, we're at 85 or 90 right there, but it's really not bad. There is a little bit of hesitation on downshifts, but its upshifts are lightning quick. Now that we're driving on the highway, it's actually really comfortable in here. I mean, I expected this car to have a little bit more wind noise, a little bit more tire noise, but those Hancocks are really nice. They're very quiet. And sure, this Skyway only has a speed limit of 60, but every time I take a car up here, even though I can't go at like full motorway speeds of like 100, I can kind of get a grasp of just how quiet and comfortable a car is. And as it is right now, it's just so comfortable in here. I could say safely that the noise insulation that this car can provide, the NVH suppression that this car can provide, is very similar to a Volkswagen, my Volkswagen Golf before. And that could probably be attributed because of the fact that these cars, these Maxuses, are made by SAIC. It's a Shanghai automotive company thingy. And they're the same company who makes, Volkswagen in China. So I guess that makes sense. I mean, everything around this car just kind of reminds me of a Volkswagen, the materials and the way everything just feels. It's really quite similar. Right now I'm averaging around 7.9 liters per 100 kilometers, which is around 12.5 to 13 kilometers per liter, which is not bad overall. That's very close to what a lot of 7-seater diesel SUVs can do nowadays, including like the Fortuner. When you want to overtake here on the highway, just shift it over to like the sport mode and just floor it, and it's not bad. Like, I expected it to hesitate a lot, just like it did in slower city streets, but this DSG is proving to be a really good contender here on the highway. There's absolutely no hesitation that I'm getting from it, as long as it is in like sport mode. But if I put it in drive, yep, there's just a very slight delay, but it's not as bad as it is in the city. So overall, if you want a car that
you can like comfortably cruise in, especially in longer journeys as well. This car is not bad at all. Despite the steering feel being extremely light on slower city roads, it's good that at least on the highway it tightens up just a little bit. And compared to other cars that have these like electronic power steering, sometimes they don't tighten enough on the highway. But for this one, I actually like it. It's really good the way it's just kind of weighted, but also very firm and actually rather direct feeling. It's a great steering system. At 1,148,000 pesos plus some discounts in some select dealership, or you can easily add 110,000 pesos more for the elite version and get 7 seats. The Maxus D50 is not a bad proposition overall. Sure, it has some imperfections overall in the cabin as well as the transmission, but you can easily forgive that because for what it's made for, which is a comfortable city cruiser and somewhat of a people mover as well, it does it really, really well.
If you like this video, please don't forget to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more car reviews.